Welcome to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is Sunday, December 2nd. Sorry for the audio delay there, folks. You know how we do it over here. Anyway, let's get right into some Grand Solar Minimum news. Tonight, we are looking at solar wind speed sitting around 448.5 kilometers per second with a density of 8.2. Right now, our sun is blank once again for the 6th straight day. We are now sitting at, that's right folks, 200 days without sunspots. For the year of 2018, we are just about ready to double the total for 2017 as well. So we've got about 28 days left to go in December, and some of you out there called for 200 and plus days without sunspots. You're definitely going to hit that mark. Now, how much more farther are we going to see this streak go? Looking at our TCI, it continues to drop ever so slightly, 37.2 billion watts. Last time we reported, it was 37.8 billion watts. Taking a look at our KP indices, very interesting. We are sitting at a 0 with a 24-hour max of 2. And looking at this SDO still shot, you would think that we are in an absolute mess right now, but it always shows a little bit different when you put her in motion. Well, we're going to have to go with this angstrom here. Apologize for that, folks. Taking a look at the SDO in motion. Again, we are looking at the coronal hole that is already passed. And we are expecting a G1 storm any hour now from that solar wind. And behind it, we have, it looks like, possibility for more coronal hole actions. And, of course, that would increase the solar wind speeds as well. And that right there would hit the southern part of our magnetic field, if at all. Still watching that plasma loop over here. It's still doing its thing as we showed you just 2 days ago. This activity is still happening in the same corner of the sun. Looking at space weather live, let's take a look behind the sun. And the only thing of relevance to talk about, and we kind of brought this up Friday night in our show, and that right there above the 180. We'll take a look at it as it gets around the bend once again, and there's a pretty decent size area of activity. So we'll continue to monitor that, and we'll see where that goes. Right now it's 0 spots for at least the next 7 days, unless something just spontaneously erupts. Taking a look at our TSI reading for November 24th, I'm sorry, the 23rd, and it came in around 1360.684. is our TSI reading for the 23rd of November. Take a look at some headlines, guys. Now, why do we talk about the floods? And a lot of this is because we think it has a correlation to cosmic ray influx that allows particles more ready to form into precipitation than previously would be if there was not highly charged particles in the atmosphere. And just an example of what happens when we get too much rain in too little time. Once again, this is like a broken record. Almost every show I do, we talk about flooding rains. Heavy rain hit the Turkish holiday resort of Bodrum in a province on November 29th, causing dangerous floods, sweeping away cars and stranding residents. The rain was preceded by at least one waterspout accompanied by large hail. This is the second flash flood event to hit this city in 10 days. The city is currently experiencing historical disaster, says the mayor of this particular province. It was like a monsoon rain. There are a lot of floods. There is a great disaster around the city, he says. Rain began to fall in the morning hours and grew intensely into the mid-afternoon, turning streets into lakes, stranding drivers, pedestrians. Waterspout formed on the sea of Bodrum on the Greek island of Kos around 1400 local time, and was visible from Turkish shore for about 15 minutes, causing panic. However, the waterspout headed west and was eventually lost from sight. And once again, Watchers has various amounts of footage of the damage from this Turkish flood. All the links will be here in the description of everything that we do on the show. Taking a look at some of this footage here, guys. Look at this. And like I said, it just seems like we are talking more and more about floods in the desert, flash flooding in this region. I don't know how those cars, well, as you see here as this video progresses, these cars begin to wedge loose and will probably head downstream as this floodwaters continue. Again, we'll leave the link in the description. And we'll also, while we're talking about floods, let's talk about the one over in Saudi Arabia. Heavy rainfall and devastating floods wreak havoc across Saudi Arabia since November 10th and continued into December. The rains have so far left more than 30 people dead, disrupted traffic, and forced evacuation of at least 4,000 people. Authorities are urging residents to take the utmost precaution to stay away from valleys and reefs during heavy rain or flash floods. Further torrential rain was forecast for several regions of the kingdom, and it says here the General Authority of Meteorological and Environmental Protection warned on Friday. Thunderstorms were also expected in the Makkah area, including its coastal areas, as well as in the Southwest Highlands. Says Al-Shamari warned of the dangers of floods, rain, and stressing the need for citizens to cooperate and follow the warnings issued by civil defense. Several images here that we have from the flooding. This was the one I saw on Facebook. This is frightening. There were people still in these cars, folks. Let's hope they all made it to safety. But I showed this to Mari the other day, and you know, her and I both agree this looks like a tsunami, not so much a flash flood. But the quotes being read here, the city is currently experiencing a historical disaster, according to the mayor. That's something we continue to see on and on and on and over again, and I think they accidentally started showing footage of the Turkey rain as well. They could have probably combined the two stories, so I apologize about repeating the same information here. But again, we're talking about Turkey, we're talking about Saudi Arabia. Another amazing video that was shared around Facebook with one of our Grand Solar Minimum mods, Penelope, showed me this video of how much rain has fallen in parts of the desert where it looks like the floor of an ocean is beginning. The desert is actually retaining water, and it's just absolutely wild to look at. So we're seeing a lot of weird things worldwide, not just here in the U.S. with snow and whatnot, but these floods in the desert, folks. You know, I know a lot of people like to blame global warming for all the water vapor in the atmosphere and whatnot, but you know, if you follow the science, and somebody asked me the other day, what got me into the Grand Solar Minimum? What got me into this kind of weather, and what makes me believing what I believe? And the one thing I told this person was that I've learned about space weather, and then I've learned about the correlations between space weather and what happens here on our planet, and it just clicked. In other words, I never really bought the whole man-made global warming. I never bought the whole, you know, we're the ones warming the planet, we're damaging the planet. I never bought into that. That science to me wasn't clear and present. But when you talk about space weather, and then you further your research and you figure out that cosmic rays, solar winds, stuff like that impacts the climate on the Earth, then the science starts making more sense, because I feel like there's way more scientific evidence that's presented on this side of the community than anything else. When you have people that talk about climate change, they really mean global warming. But the only reason why they say climate change now is because they're hiding behind the fact that it's not warming anymore. So climate change is the next best term for them to use, because it confuses people. When you hear someone call someone a climate change denier, well, it makes them look like an idiot. Oh, you know, the idea is to make that person look stupid. Oh, you deny climate change? Oh, can't you see the floods? Can't you see the snow? You must be crazy. And that's what the AGW narrative wants to kind of put out there, is that by saying climate change denier, now you're just making it look like that person doesn't understand science. But what it really comes down to is that the left and the liberals that got this global warming scam started has turned into a giant chameleon, and they can't keep their story straight, and therefore they continuously change the title, change the narrative to, no matter what happens, cooling, flooding, snow, earthquake, volcano, we're going to blame man for this. And they're sticking to their guns on this, folks. It's going as far as seeing news organizations such as ABC, CBS, and NBC posting ridiculous articles about how the government will start spraying our skies to dim the sun so we can offset global warming. And I literally spit out my drink when I read this. I was on a lunch break, and I thought to myself, the sun's already dimming. We don't have to put anything in the sky to shield us from the sun right now. That's already happening. So unless they want to turn this planet into a giant ice ball, I suggest that just be a little fairy tale article and go away fast, because to me, that's just irresponsible reporting by those major networks, suggesting that a theory of spraying the skies would be safe for us, first of all, and secondly, to be that naive to think that us spraying the sky is going to be enough to control this entire planet's climate. Now, I know there's a lot of you out there who firmly believe in geoengineering, and I'm not bashing geoengineering, and I'm not saying that there isn't weather manipulation systems out there. I know we've been told that Vietnam was also a time where we used weather manipulation to win a few battles. So I'm not saying that it's not possible, but on a global scale, I'm saying it's ridiculous. And let's talk about the Midwest. Off-season tornado outbreaks hits Midwest, destroying over 100 houses and killing just one person. More than 20 preliminary tornadoes were reported across Illinois, Missouri on Saturday evening, December 1st, 2018. The hardest hit area appears to be Taylorsville near Springfield, Illinois, where emergency crews reported major damage. Several people were trapped inside partially collapsed homes or by downed power lines, WGN reports. State police urged all residents to avoid due to severe damaged roads, so they wanted people to stay away. Some serious damage had occurred during these storms last night into this morning. According to the Herald and Review, at least 100 buildings were destroyed across the town. We activated the State Emergency Operations Center so that we could closely monitor the situation, keep in contact with local officials, and quickly mobilize any state's assets that may be needed. And that was according to the governor of Illinois, Bruce Rauner. Here we get a little stats here. The National Weather Service confirmed an EF1 tornado touchdown in Aurora overnight. The tornado touched down 2 miles south of Aurora and tracked northeast to the Aurora Motel. The tornado then traveled north across Highway 60 and impacted Sutherlands before dissipating. The path was approximately about a half-mile wide. Length was about 50 yards, and the wind speeds were estimated somewhere in the 105-mile-an-hour range. Taking a look at some maps here provided by watchers.net, collecting information all over social media. Twitter is always in my opinion here lately, Twitter has been just absolutely spot on when it comes to receiving information about weather events and other worldwide events. Here is, you guys can see it very slightly here. That is the tornado that they caught in the nighttime during a lightning flash. That could be a power line exploding too. So very scary times, especially you talk about not being ready for a tornado in December, especially in the evening, nighttime hours. This could come at a really bad timing as far as people not being aware. And we're lucky to see that only one person had been deceased from this particular storm. So we are thankful and very lucky to only see one person. But here's a look at the damage. This looked worse than an EF1, that's for sure. Some amazing photos here. Andrew Pritchard at Sky Drama. Tornado view from Central Illinois. Look at that, guys. Little video footage of the twister. So I thought, yeah. Pretty decent sized twister, especially for December. The weather is all kinds of crazy, guys. We've seen record snow across this area, and we'll talk about that here soon as well. And I saw this article earlier today, and it's on the physics.org website. It's called, it's talking about a new automated volcano warning system forecasted. And the reason why I brought this up tonight is there's all kinds of people out there that are really good at predicting earthquakes and following their habits and studying their ways. I know several of you watch Dutch Sense. A lot of us look at Suspicious Observers for tectonic activity reports. But there's all kinds of ways to get your news when it comes to earthquakes. But scientists have developed an automated early warning system for volcano eruptions, according to a new study. The new system helped government officials warn the public of impending eruptions in Italy and could potentially do the same around the globe, according to the study's authors. Now, it says here, new research in the Journal of Geophysical Research, Solid Earth, a journal of American Geophysical Union, details the new system that monitors volcanic noises and automatically alerts officials if eruption is imminent. The study's author tested this system over a period of 8 years on Mount Etna, a volcano on the island of Sicily. Using the new system, the Italian government activated an emergency plan about 1 hour prior to an eruption for the first time in late 2015. And approximately 1,500 active volcanoes around the world are not monitored in real time. Many volcanoes are monitored with methods based on seismic waves, which are vibrations of Earth's layers that can be triggered by eruptions. But seismic waves are often not great at telling volcanic explosions apart from other processes like internal magma movements, earthquakes, or storms. The study's author said most of the methods require input from volcano experts, and alerts are only sent after volcanoes have begun to erupt. Aircraft pilots, for example, should know about the volcano eruptions as early as possible. A geophysicist at the University of Florence in Florence, Italy, says, on several occasions in the past, aircraft encounters with volcanic ash clouds have led to engine failure. And that's, very concerning as well. But what I kept reading in this article here is that they found infrasound sensors that can reliably identify eruption signals. From 2008 to 16, the sensors detected 57 of the 59 eruptions, sent alerts to the researchers about an hour before each eruption. It says, when we got this percentage of success, we decided to use it as an operational system. Now we can send text messages and emails to authorities that are in charge to start an emergency plan in case of a volcanic eruption. I'll leave this article in the description as well, but just good to see that we have scientists around the world that are working around the clock and successfully monitoring these volcanic eruptions and alerting people an hour before eruption. So good signs that science is still being used out there, and let's continue to hope that we can find more and more of these volcanoes being monitored by these systems. And here we have a little UK weather forecast. It says snow and frost is expected in Britain as winter blast arrives. Icy showers, snow, and frost will hit the UK this month as a spell of wintry weather bites. The Met Office has issued a yellow weather warning for parts of Scotland starting on Monday, as icy stretches developing overnight are expected to cause disruption for commuters. Temperatures will further plummet throughout Monday night and into Tuesday morning, with mercury dropping as low as -4 in rural England and Scotland. Cities are likely to be a few degrees warmer. People will be scraping the ice off their cars first thing on Tuesday, says Sarah Kent, a meteorologist at the Met Office. Some 10 to 12 centimeters of snow are expected to fall in the Pennines on Tuesday, with a few centimeters predicted on high ground elsewhere, including Snowdonia. The snow is on high ground and hills and is notable, Ms. Kent says. People planning to drive across the Pennines will need to be winter ready. For England, it would be the first snow of the winter, though parts of Scotland saw snowfall last month. The snowy spell may clear by Wednesday, when the weather is expected to be drier and brighter, with highs at 14 Celsius in southern parts of England. It will be cooler in Scotland, where temperatures will be around 5 degrees Celsius. Ms. Kent goes on to say that the temperatures will recover later this week, but the weather will continue to be unsettled throughout the most of the month of December. And kind of sounds like what's going to be happening here in the eastern part of the United States. We'll get into that here in a little bit. Snow is in the forecast as city recovers from quake. This was updated from 2 hours ago. Talks about winds barreled into Anchorage on Saturday, adding little more stress to a city still recovering from a major earthquake. This is one of those weekends, boy. Stay home and stream Netflix, says Anchorage Fire Chief Jody Hetrick in a news conference on Saturday. If you have power, that is. The National Weather Service reported Wind gusts into Saturday evening would be 40 and 50 miles per hour, which they were, and gusting up to 60 miles per hour on the hillside. Talking about forecasters were predicting around 3 to 6 inches of snow. So on top of the fact that we dealt with the 7.0 earthquake, we were dealing with some light snowfall accumulation. Certainly 3 to 6 inches is nothing unusual for folks out there in Alaska, but dealing with what they've been dealing with, just a lot on their plate right now. And I put this article in here because there's a lot more links that talks about damage, millions of dollars of damage. Assembly extends emergency declaration for Anchorage until Tuesday. Why the 7.0 earthquake was felt differently across Anchorage. The day after Alaskans clean up. This article here from this website, Anchorage Daily News, does a very good job of laying it out. Instead of just having continuous article after article, they link everything up together in one. And here at the Grand Solar Minimum channel, we love the links that have nothing but jam-packed full of information in it. But you'll get a little bit more take on everything that's happening, more footage of the damage that's happened across the area, and where they plan to talk about how much money this is going to cost to get fixed. But here they lay it out on the infrastructure damage. They number it 1 through 8, and as you see, there is a lot of areas with major damage, not just other areas with significant damage, but major damage has been observed in these areas. So on top of the damage that they're cleaning up from, now we're dealing with 3 to 6 inches of snow. Not the ideal kind of conditions. It already looked like they were dealing with minor accumulations to begin with in the first place. And now we're going to throw in about 3 to 6 more inches of snow. So keep our eyes on that. We will leave a link in the description. We're still seeing aftershocks. In fact, I read somewhere today that scientists are predicting as much as 1,000 aftershocks for this particular earthquake. We will see. We've seen quite a bit already. I know we had over 450 yesterday in a 24-hour period. So I haven't checked the numbers yet for the update, but I'm sure some of you in the chat will be able to inform myself and Mari as well. And let's move on to, so here's another article about Illinois. And the importance for this one is not only we were talking about tornadic activity in this part of the country, but here is an article for November being the coldest and snowiest on record, and this is a models of all the snow from the last 30 days in the United States. Now, I'm not trying to exaggerate this map whatsoever, but for the month of November, and I know a lot of you guys out there are old school, and the term that if we see snow early, that doesn't mean we're going to get it out of the way and get it early spring. Usually that means we're going to get it early and often. And for the first month of November, to bring back recordings of in the 30-inch area in some spots, Western New York saw 30-plus inches of snow. Upstate New York and Maine and New Hampshire and other parts in the New England area also saw 30 inches plus of snow. Moderate snowfall across Illinois, Chicago, Missouri, Nebraska. You saw your share, over 2 feet of snow. And of course the higher elevations across Colorado, Wyoming, and Montana, you guys also saw close to the 30 inches of snow. And it says here that Peoria's average November temperature is 41.8. Thanks to multiple Arctic cold fronts pushing through the central Illinois this year, November's average temperature was 34.6 degrees, the eighth coldest November on record, I should say. So right about 7 degrees, over 7.2 degrees lower than the average temp right now in Peoria. The city only averages 1 inch of snow throughout the month, but saw around 9.8 inches of snow. The snowiest November on record was in 1926, where they received 10.7. So they were less than an inch away from breaking that record from 1926. Peoria received measurable snowfall on 9 different days throughout the month. On 4 of those occasions, Peoria received more than an inch of snow, with the heaviest snow falling during the 25th through the 26th blizzard. This is unusual, as the first 1 inch of snow doesn't occur until December 11th on the average for the Peoria area. Could this be a sign of things to come, they ask. The Climate Prediction Center's official outlook for the month of December is calling for above precipitation and above average temperatures. While there may be a period of cooler than normal temperatures at the beginning of the month, it looks like warmer temperatures may move in for the middle of the month. We will have to see. I talked to a friend of mine earlier. We were talking about why that you see so much double talk from the mainstream and local meteorologists, and they're just basically pacifying us, trying to ease that fear and give us a bit of hope. And this is one of those articles that, trying to make a positive spin on something. I'm sorry, I know brutal winters in Illinois, especially the Chicago area. Usually when they start getting snow and cold like this early, it's really hard to see the warm temperatures returning. And when I say warm, I'm talking mid-40s, and I just know that this area right here has been so far the recipient of much of the cold Arctic air that has came out of the Arctic this year so far. And we're only in December 2nd, so lots to wait for. We talk about Maine wakes up this morning to a fresh coating of snow and freezing rain. We had that last night, moving all day. It changed over to rain. Fresh round of snow and rain moved over Maine early Sunday morning, creating a risk of slippery roads. National Weather Service placed most of Maine, except for the immediate coast, under a winter weather advisory. And we were under that as well last night here in upstate New York. Some saw anywhere from 1 to 3 inches. Greater Bangor will see up to 2 inches of snow, according to the National Weather Service. And this weather has since moved out. But again, I'm just adding this to the collection of articles that are talking about snow accumulations and freezing rain for this very early part of December. And still, we are technically in fall. Now, I know meteorologists will say we are in meteorological winter, basically, because it's December. But by the calendar, technically, we are still just about 19 days away from the official start of winter for 2018 and 2019. Already a cold start, guys. Snow tapers off. Chilly week ahead. Talking about Minneapolis here, St. Paul, the international airport recorded around 2.3 inches of snow since midnight. National Weather Service says another 4.6 inches has been measured. 3.2 also been measured in St. Paul. Some of the highest totals were 7.3 inches in North Mankato and 6.8 in Lake Crystal. Rochester listed a total of 5.6 inches of snow. Taking a look at the tropical tidbits here for the forecast for Sunday into Monday, and we see this low pressure system dragging snow across Wisconsin and into western Michigan, throughout northern Michigan, the southern eastern part of Michigan. You're going to see nothing but rain from this, but there is a distinct line of snow and rain here, and that snow will be heavy for those of you that are getting it. Those of you who are just getting the rain, you missed one there. But just another area that we're experiencing more winter weather, again in the northern Midwest, through the Great Lakes, more snow. Snow blanketed in the metro area here on Sunday. This is out of Omaha. We talked about the blizzard-like conditions. We saw snowfall totals today. They're around 3 to 6 inches in some areas. Most of Omaha saw 5 to 6 of snow, while just across the river in Council Bluffs, snowfall totaled 7 to 9 inches of snow. Travel was slow before sunrise as plows continued to make their way through parts of the city. Main streets were mostly clear of snow by 7 a.m., but were covered in water and slush. Again, we're on that fine line where we're not supposed to be this cold yet, so we're going to have daytime highs mostly getting above freezing, 36, 38, 40 degrees, and that's not going to be warm or cold enough for snow to stick, so then you've got that slushy snow that's real messy, watery, just a sloppy mess right now through much of the country as the temperatures continue to go up and down from freezing to just above freezing within a matter of hours. I know that's what we're kind of experiencing up here in the Northeast as well. California to be the first stop of next cross-country U.S. winter storm. A new winter storm is gearing up to bring widespread impacts from the south central United States to the east later this week after sweeping into California around midnight, or midweek, I should say. The new storm is expected to end the current cool and dry spell in California, but returning another round of rain, mountain snow, and gusty winds. This is like a repeat of last week's story. Once again, California is going to be the talk of the weather because we have to worry about mudslides, debris flows in the burn scar areas, may be highest around where the Woolsey Fire and Thomas Fire scorched land and homes north of Los Angeles. At this point, the heaviest rain for these areas is expected to be early in the day on Wednesday, she added. And this storm system is forecasted to move right through the week. Now, by Friday, we should be in Texas. And believe it or not, there will be cold enough air. Parts of northern Texas may see snow as this storm will track to the mid-Atlantic states. Surprisingly, this will stay just to the south of the Northeast, but the mid-Atlantic states, North Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, maybe New York City will see snow, and I will show you guys the GFS prediction here just in a short bit. But it is definitely Texas. You will also be in store for a lot of heavy rain and thunderstorms this week as well. So we are not out of the woods for the heavy rain and thunderstorms. And I wanted to bring this up really quick. I'm not going to read this word for word, but just another example of what I had originally thought. People like Radical Gardener also agreed with this theory that we still have to drain the swamp. And the administration did not release this report on the climate, on the state of the climate, based on the amount of lies that we saw in the report. And on top of the fact that Donald Trump, his narrative lately has not been anywhere near the agreement of what this climate report had given us. In fact, this article also points out that the people, the 13 different departments that were initiated for this report were done so by the Obama administration. So a little bit of a bias. Like I said, Donald Trump's got a lot on his plate. He's got a lot of house cleaning to do still, and he's getting around to it. And this is just one of those things where the swamp still has to be drained. The report was released under Trump's name, as some members are still haters, and they want to be basically defaming the President of the United States by trying to put egg on his face and putting the title Trump Administration Release Climate Report. And it's totally contradicting from what Donald Trump actually believes. If any of you have been following this channel, you'll know what I'm talking about. Mr. Trump does not believe in man-made global warming. He thinks that we might have a small role into this, but nothing on the level that these scientists have been claiming. And you're probably thinking, especially if you don't like Trump, well, that figures. You know, he's always disagreeing with the consensus. He's always going against the grain. But in this instance, it really isn't about going against the grain. This is an obvious, logical answer, folks, and it's money. And there's so much money that's being issued yearly for grants for research to universities, to organizations across the country, and our taxpayer dollars are funding it. Our taxpayer dollars are funding the next carbon tax bill, basically. We're funding the research that they're supposedly doing to help go into figuring out how much more money they're going to tax us for man-made emissions. So I've said this before, I'll say it again. It's only a matter of time before somebody starts coming at us about, talking about this openly all the time. But let's face it, guys. We are affecting the pockets of many scientists right now who are trying to push the man-made global warming agenda. We are affecting those pockets right now. And the threats and the trolls and everything else are going to start increasing as well because they don't like the job that we're doing. They don't like that we're exposing top government agencies for cooking the books. Noah hates it. Noah absolutely hates it. I don't care. I don't mean to be a trouble starter with these people, but I'm just tired of the lies. I'm tired of the miscommunication from the public and these agencies, and they know they're in a decent amount of power, so they take advantage of that power, and they say whatever they say because they know the majority of the people will believe it because of their title. But if the majority of the people would actually look at the science of things, the title wouldn't mean much. And right now, Noah's got the numbers for now. And keep laughing. Keep trying to ad hominem attack people who don't believe in your man-made garbage. People who believe in natural cycles, where the real science is actually taking place between space weather and weather here on Earth. That's where the real science is. Take a look at our local radar. We have snow showers still in northern Illinois, snow showers in the UP of Michigan, Traverse City, Interlochen. You're going to see some light snow showers, not as heavy as the Mitten region of Michigan, as the northeastern parts of the United States are almost rain-free at this time. Maine, you're the only state really dealing with any kind of precipitation. The rest of us are trying to dry out. Parts of the Panhandle of Florida, Jacksonville, you saw some rain today. South Carolina, east coast of Georgia, now North Carolina, starting to see some showers off the coast. Other than that, not a whole lot of activity happening right now across the United States as far as weather goes. We'll take a look at the GFS forecast over the next several days, and that system that we're showing you that's dragging snow across Michigan will stay in Canada. And there is indication on Monday night into Tuesday morning we could see some lake effect snows because the winds will be coming straight from the west. Now, how much of snow we're going to see on Monday and Tuesday, that's a different forecast altogether. Temperatures are going to fall for Monday at a high of 46 in the northeast, and they will drop to freezing by the end of the day Monday. So we will see the temperatures drop, but look at the majority of the United States. The high pressure is sinking across to the south parts of the United States. Texas, California is getting cold. And then we have a low pressure system moving in, or as the guy from NOAA out there in California, he called it a little twirly. But we got a low pressure system moving in on the west coast, once again bringing rain to southern California. And that low pressure system that's going to be here by the 6th of December is the concern because of the scar burning areas out there in Woolsey and Malibu and areas that have suffered fire damage this year. And go back to the northeast, we've got cold air that's just going to stick around. And by the end of this week, Friday, heads up for Ohio, New York, western Pennsylvania, upstate New York. But this is going to be a quick mover, guys, kind of like an Alberta Clipper. It's going to fall apart really quick as it moves through on Friday into Saturday. Lake effect still possible for western Pennsylvania and western New York. But look at this monster of a storm that we have brewing up here on December 8th in the Houston area through Louisiana. Thunderstorms, severe thunderstorms possible with this as the warmer air to the south and snow to the north of this system. And as this storm moves across the south, this was the low pressure system that we just showed you on AccuWeather that's going to be causing problems. This is the low pressure system out of California, by the way. And as we go into early next week, we could have a serious situation of heavy snowfall in the mid-Atlantic states, West Virginia, North Carolina, Virginia, New Jersey, parts of Kentucky and Tennessee will catch the back end of this. This thing is trying to get its act together almost like a nor'easter, folks. And right now, the GFS models are showing light snow accumulations across the coastal regions of the Northeast. But we will keep our eyes on this as it is still about 10 days out. About 8 days out from this particular storm. And then as we go into late next week, another low pressure system begins to form across the central United States, moving into the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast once again, which by the 16th of December, we are going to see birthday snow for somebody. Somebody gets birthday snow.
I don't know who you're talking about.
Well, Mari's 28th birthday is coming up on the 16th of December. Looks like old man Winter is going to drop her a little snowy present. But that's still a few days out. But the weather pattern looks consistent. The south, from the Gulf through the southern states, up the east coast, rain and snow. The west coast, California, you've got a couple low pressure systems that are also going to be starting trouble for much of the United States. The northwest as well, that mix of rain and snow. You guys are looking at a big snow event possibly the week of the 14th. So a very active pattern for precipitation. And as far as our temperatures go, well, that's not going to change much either. As here at the beginning of the month, I see milder temperatures. But as we get deeper into the month, that Arctic air starts to push in a little bit further south. Right here, we start to see it on December 3rd. And it takes over most of the United States by the 4th of December. Highs struggling to stay in the upper 30s and low 40s, much of the south as we get into Wednesday, December 5th. That cold air that deep Arctic air is still in Canada, and it's going to touch a little bit of the Dakotas, Minnesota, and Wisconsin, possibly even parts of northern Michigan. But for the most part, this colder air that we're going to get here in the mid part of this coming week and early next week is going to keep us in the 20s, 30s, and possibly 40s by the end of late next week, as we see a ridge of warmer air trying to warm up the East Coast. But look here, by the 17th and 18th of December, we've got that Arctic plunge happening once again. So GFS is calling for some mild temperatures briefly before we start seeing the colder air plunging into the United States, and we're 3 days away from calendar winter at this point. But the temperatures are really taking a dive, and we're waiting on Dr. Roy Spencer's his update on his information for the anomaly temperatures. I haven't had a chance to monitor the Arctic as much as I'd like to. A couple friends of mine have. Some of them believe that we will see a temperature increase. Right now we're sitting at a 0.22 above baseline, and there are some who believe that we will see this number increase to 0.227. So the numbers aren't out yet. There are some predictions of it going up to 0.3. There are also a couple people who might think it could be as low as 0.07. Me! Again, just clearly a guess at this point. But I hate to be like this, guys, but this is always my favorite part of the month, every month. And that is the second and third of the month, where we get the release of the information that we always crave here at the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Check out the snowfall totals here over the next 10 days. Not as heavy as the last 30, but we're still seeing a lot of snowfall happening at least in 50% of the United States. I also read something earlier as well that 49 of the 50 United States have seen snow, and it's not even winter yet. Let that sink in for a minute. 49 of the 50 states have already seen snow, and it's December 2nd. But, we talk about solar minimums on this channel and how we're heading into a grand solar minimum. Not quite there yet, but we're heading towards it. We just got out of one of the deepest minimums. Well, we're still in it, actually. I'm sorry. Solar cycle 25 is not predicted to begin until mid-2019. So we're technically still in one of the deepest solar minimums we've seen in over 100 years. And with more and more scientists predicting 25 to be weaker than 24, I don't really consider 25 to be much of a cycle if it's going to be weaker than what we just experienced. And it's supposed to be significantly more weaker. Taking a look at our sea surface temperatures, North Atlantic going above baseline at 0.163. Very slight, but still moving up. It was down a little. And El Nino, right now it's showing signs that we will see a late year winter El Nino. Modaki is probably what's going to happen. Anything could happen still, but right now it's staying on that edge of 0.821, which is a very weak El Nino, but nonetheless, it's trending towards a late season El Nino. As we take a look at the temperatures, kind of don't match if you ask me. We see a lot more 27s than we had in previous weeks, only two 29-degree region temperatures. So we'll watch this. It looks to me as if it's cooling and not warming up, as the data is suggesting. And taking a look at our sea ice in the Arctic, as you see, we're not even in winter yet. The Hudson Bay is freezing up pretty nicely. It's already at its average mean as far as where it needs to be for the ice. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, we've already broke that median range for the year as far as ice sea extent or Arctic ice extent growth in the region. We're already where we need to be, and it's not even winter. Of course, we will continue to see that number go up. Let me see if I can go out of this and check out the graph. We are finally at 11 square kilometers. I should say 11 million of square kilometers. Here we are in the ice growth right now. We are at 10.9 902. That's of December 1st. We are almost at that 11 millions of square kilometers on the Arctic sea ice. If you take this line away, we're above the 2012 where we should be, and compared to the median interquartile range, we are looking right about close to average on that right now, as that gap continues to decline each time we look at the ice extent. I guess I can move that up so you guys can see that. So, getting a little tongue twisted here, guys. It's been a long day. I think I'm going to wrap this up, but I want to show you one more thing before I get Mari on here. And by the way, she's busting her butt. We are going to have a newly revamped website coming to you in 2019. Please take a look at our videos and some of the things that we have lined up here on the website. But it's going to be a lot more easier now to access our YouTube channel when you go to thegrandsolarminimum.com. That being said, Mari, would you like to say hello to our lovely people in the chat?
You mean my youthful sidekick?
Yeah.
You're supposed to introduce me different. Everyone's like, God, you're young, Mari. I feel so old. And I had to tell him the truth because I felt bad, Jake.
The joke of the house. Mari's daughter, sweet little daughter of hers, truly believed that Mari was turning 27 last year. So much to the fact that I actually went out and bought a 27 candle for her birthday cake last year. So it's a little inside joke that we have. Mari's hint, hint, nudge, nudge, wink, wink is 28 years old. We can't really tell you the real age, though. It's a secret. But go ahead.
I guess you're only as old as you act.
That's right.
So I'm 12. Okay. Thank you, everyone in the chat. I'd like to give a shout out to Justin Elligan and someone in the UK named me for Super Chats. Very kind. Thank you very much. I welcome new mods. Added a few mods. Pisces used to be a mod, and then he had weird account things. He has proven that he is the real Pisces.
Okay.
So he has gained his wrench back. Justin L. has a wrench. Jeff and Grant. So welcome aboard the mod team, ladies and gentlemen.
Nice.
Wonderful. Carlos Ramirez shared a great paper on volcanic eruptions and solar activity. Check that out. I'll post the link again. I'll also post a link to our Discord chat where we can share information 24/7. Pretty useful. I pop in there from time to time. It's just good, even if you don't participate in the chat, to take a look at the links and see what people are posting. You know, people are very resourceful, and they're always posting links. It's a big world out there, and everyone has something to contribute, alongside our Facebook group as well, which has been very active. So we'll leave the links. I probably pinned in a comment would be easier. So thank you guys very much. We actually had someone from Saudi Arabia pop in. Garish Girl was her username. I live in Saudi Arabia. Nowadays, she has the weirdest weather, heavy rain, floods, lightning strikes, and it's not too cold out yet. So that's what she said, yet. So she just thinks it's weird weather. So thanks for giving us that update. Did you ask people for temperature guesses?
I didn't.
Because I missed that.
I didn't. I was kind of making it at the end. I did a little bit, but what are some of the guesses that we're seeing? Okay,
so Grant is saying 0.22 to 0.20. This is his guess. We got 0.27 to 3.1, which is Rob, and Starman's guessing around 0.29.
Okay.
I don't have a guess because I usually am not good at that.
Mine was a freakish guess of 0.07. So
wow.
I am the maverick of the group. We'll see what happens with that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. And then we were joking about the Gore Fest tomorrow.
No, that's
the
right.
Gorgor Dolls.
The Gorgor Dolls.
Tomorrow.
And Moby and the Mildred Orchestra.
So I am contemplating having a live stream up for a few hours just to sort of taunt and have a laugh, and maybe just allow people to go in the chat and mock Al Gore to their heart's content. And let's see. Maybe I think I can make it happen.
Sounds good.
Think, Jake?
I'm happy about it.
Well, anyone, it's been a pleasure. I can't talk. Well, everyone, it's been a pleasure in the chat. Thank you. And I'm going to hand it back to you, Jake.
All right, and before we go tonight, thank you very much for that little update there, Mari. But before we go tonight, I think it's a good idea to talk about Upheaval, the book by John Casey. I'm reading it. I'm about halfway through it, and I think this would be very useful for you if you're trying to learn about the grand solar minimum and what's going to happen. Not just about temperatures, but volcanoes, earthquakes, everything. It's all correlated. And between now and 2031, we're expected to get a major volcanic eruption, according to this book. And so upheaval is just what it means, folks. So all these earthquakes that we're seeing, these upticks, this book will help you understand what's happening a little easier versus listening to all the conspiracy theorists out there that are on YouTube land and other pages as well, like Facebook and stuff like that. I highly recommend this book, Upheaval by John L. Casey. If you guys want to learn about the grand solar minimum, volcanic eruptions and earthquakes, this is the book because it talks about everything as far as GSM is concerned. A very good read so far. I highly recommend it to everyone. All right, that's going to do it for us tonight, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Guys, we will talk soon. Thank you for tuning in. Please be sure to check us out tomorrow night, Monday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. We will talk soon, guys. Take care.